Hello, BookTube. This is Kelly with Books I'm Not Reading. I have a lot of other things I should be doing right now, but I can't wait any longer. I have to talk to you guys about the Dud Avocado. And just by chance, I ended up reading this in conjunction with The Catcher in the Rye. Earlier this summer, I posed the question, is it too late to read this book? You know, has my moment of opportunity passed? And Jasmine at Jasmine's Reads suggested we do a buddy read together, which was awesome. And at the same time, I pulled this book off the shelf as a great summer read, I thought. And ironically, the person who gave it to me is now a booktuber. Her channel's name is Book Spotting, so I encourage you to check that out. And she's always, both her and her husband have always been extremely generous. And she sent me this book quite a long time ago. But she says, she starts off the inscription with, "I discovered this female Holden Caulfield." And so I thought, how fun! Like I kind of, I'm gonna get to read sort of two different perspectives, two different coming of age kind of stories. Now, I believe Holden is 16 or 17 in this, and the main character of the Dud Avocado, the one and only Sally J. Gorse, is 21. And she does run away from school when she's about 13, and instead her uncle makes her an offer that if she finishes school, and he means all the way through college, that he will give her an allowance for 2 years to do whatever it is she wants. So Catcher in the Rye, like some of the comments that you guys gave to me about this book was just about how it rang so true and it felt so authentic about the experience of letting go of childhood and being in that kind of in-between stage of childhood and adulthood. Sally J. Gorse is 21 in this, so for me it had that same kind of ring of authenticity. I just identified with the main character, which if you've read it or when you read it, like you might go, oh my goodness, like, but I'm not saying I'm exactly like Sally J. Gorse, but just the experience of wanting to like live on your own without an adult like supervising you, the experience of I don't know, another world, completely different from the one you've grown up in. So Sally J moves to Paris, and the book has a great, well, has quite an exhilarating opening to it, but one of the first things that the author, Elaine Dundy, tells us about Sally J is that her hair is dyed slightly pink. And I will tell you that I was unemployed for a little while at one point, and I dyed my hair purple because I had always wanted to do that, and it was fantastic. It was so worth it. But anyway, so at the time, this book takes place in the 50s. It was actually published, I think, initially in 1958. So at the time, to have your hair kind of tinted or dyed a little bit was sort of a sign that you were maybe a little bit racier than the other girls around you, the other young women around you. And she most definitely is. And I don't know if I misread some of the opening of this book, but when I first started reading it, Jason was in the same room, and he kept asking me like, how is it, and I'm like, do you want me to tell you what happened? And he said no, but I was like, I was really shocked by something that happens very early on in the book, and I don't know if I misread it, if my head was in the gutter or what the deal was, but I was floored. And I can't imagine, 1950s Like, I was just very, very shocked. But after that, you know, certainly there are scenes and suggestions of things that are going on, and I think Elaine Dundy is very wise not to go right in detail of the sex scenes. Sex, I find, is usually, you know, as far as in a novel, best left to the reader's imagination, rather than trying to rate it explicitly. Anyway, so Sally, she's does a bunch of different things. She is in some plays for a little while. She is mistress to a married man. At one point, she just kind of runs around with this crowd, and she's really just searching for, like, what does it mean to live? Like, at one point, I think she even says, like, she hates plans. Like, she wants to be spontaneous and just do things on her own. And of course, she always, you know, is overspending her allowance before she gets the next check, and those kinds of things. And she's just really trying to find her way in the world, and definitely, like, to find her way with men. But there were some things in here that I thought were really similar to Holden. So this one scene, she is dancing with this person. She renames people. Like, there's one character that she calls Blah, right? I mean, that's not his name, obviously, but that's what she calls him. Anyway, and there's this other character, Crazy Eyes, and she calls him Crazy Eyes because she's afraid of him. And, you know, she said something like, it stuck out a mile that he'd hit your head against a stone fireplace if he felt like it. So definitely, like, somebody a little edgier, maybe potentially violent. But then she says, I'm a real phony. One of those half-baked hothouse plants we're growing nowadays, instead of honest-to-God, two-fisted women we should be, and neurotic that I am, I shrink like mad from the criminal type. If anyone comes at me with club, I duck. Brother, I duck. And then I run. So I was a little nervous about having this cat, Crazy Eyes, think I was leading him on. The outdoors is fraught with danger. And so anyway, it just goes on with her escapades, and like I said, the thing for me is always character, or for the most part character. And I'm not saying, again, please don't think if you read this that I am Sally J. Gorse, okay? But when I was 20, I lived in New York City by myself for an entire summer, and I did a lot of really stupid things. A lot of stupid things. But again, like, it was just like the world had been open to me, you know, coming from a small rural town. I was just really, and it was like an incredible education for me. And the 2 weeks that I did spend in Paris by myself, for the most part by myself, again, I look back and I'm like, really, you could have been kidnapped, you could have, like, all these different things could have happened to me. But I spent my time, especially in Paris, I just walked everywhere. And in New York, the same thing, every weekend. I just walked. And all of a sudden I would, you know, kind of wake from my reverie and look around and realize, A, I had no idea where I was, and B, that it was maybe a little bit shady of a neighborhood. But Sally J, she just wants to live. She wants to embrace life, and I loved it. I loved her. My only criticism of the book is that how Elaine Dundy in 1958 wraps this book up felt very 1950s. I felt like, which is, I mean, you know, I mean, that's when she was writing it, so yeah, I guess that's maybe to be expected. But I wanted so much more for Sally J, and I was really disappointed in her decisions at the end of the book. And there's also some other things that happen at the end of the book, things revealed about other characters. I definitely don't want to spoil this book for you. But they felt a little contrived, and they felt a little, I don't know, like character A is one thing for almost the majority of the book, and then suddenly at the end is something else. And it just, I needed more kind of clues or hints or something, and maybe on a reread, I would see it a little bit better since I knew what was coming. But so that's why it's 4 out of 5 stars. Aside from the ending, it was just a great book. For so many of you who really connected with Catcher in the Rye, I mean, part of me thinks, like, Holden would have thought, like, Sally J. Gorse was a phony. He might have loved her legs, but found her sad and depressing in some ways. I do think there is, like, kind of a connection with these books. It was very popular when it was first published, and then it just has kind of had, like, this lifespan where it comes up and, you know, it gets a, I don't know, a new edition is released and it gets some buzz and attention and people find it, and then it sort of drops off. And it sounds like throughout the history of the book's life that has happened multiple times. So thank you to Anna at Bookspotting for buying this for me long before I even knew what BookTube was. And yeah, I really recommend it. Some of you mentioned that you were going to reread Catcher in the Rye just so you could read this. I'm not sure that that's necessary, but, you know, I mean, Catcher in the Rye, like, it's a short enough book that I feel like on a reread, maybe I might enjoy it more. I certainly have appreciated everyone's thoughtful comments on it, and I would love to hear, like, if you feel like there's other books out there that are kind of like this. I mean, I felt a connection to A Tree Grows in Brooklyn very strongly. Again, I don't, you know, I share some similarities, like, I like to read, with the main character of that book, and I felt such a kinship and close connection to her. But again, my life is completely different than hers. So yeah, if you've read this, I would love to know what you think. Thanks, BookTube, for listening to me gush about this book and its kind of raciness. Please let me know if you like this video. Leave a comment, and yeah, I hope to hear from you, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks so much, BookTube. Bye.